couple of things here, and we'll bring you on, and we'll get you on the show and talk.
I don't know if she can hear us.
I think she can.
Okay.
Can she? Yeah.
Yeah.
She's not in the back room. She's in the green room. So
Right. We'll go
she
with
can
that.
hear us. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know if she could hear it before we went on the air. That's my,
I think she
know.
can. We'll
Okay.
have to ask her when she comes on.
Yes,
Yeah.
that'll be
I think
first.
she can. Yes.
God, I keep bringing it up. And it's already on YouTube and the other one, and it's got her name on, or it's got the other name on it. So, oh boy, where did I get that from? Yeah, I read the beginning part. It said Jennifer of the Wine Concierge, and I was like, oh, okay.
Your show will go live in 5
And
seconds.
And you just
4,
put that up.
3, 2, 1.
One.
Blog Talk Radio.
There we go. Hopefully, yep.
This is All About Wine, the talk show dedicated to the wine industry.
You know what I think it is? I think it's because we've been off for like 2 weeks because of hurricanes and all that kind of stuff. I think it just totally screwed it up. And now I can't even read emails.
Everything. Yeah.
I can't read it anymore. That's how it affected me. Let's see if there's any benefits
That's
to that.
what happened. A hurricane just whipped it right out of your mind.
whipped
That's
my
not
mind
good
out.
because
Yes.
you have such a great memory.
Yeah. Oh, we doing
Yeah.
the intro? Oh, sorry. Let me
Wow.
Since 2009, featuring winemaker, cellar master, vineyardist, and tasting expert, Ron.
Basically, what we're trying to do on this program is just trying to educate people and trying to make wine less confusing and more friendly.
From coast to coast and around the world.
You know, we really have had some neat people on the program. I love that.
Post your questions and comments during the live show on our Facebook page at www.facebook.com/allaboutwinebtr. Again, that's www.facebook.com/allaboutwinebtr. And now, All About Wine is on. Here's Ron.
Oh, bless people. Thank you. Beautiful
Yeah.
weather here. Beautiful weather.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like
I've been sharing the meme that you posted, though, and the fact that, we're having beautiful, gorgeous weather here, and we tend to forget that just a week ago the weather tried to kill us.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's, I've been sharing that, and every time I share that, people laugh, and they go, that's right, yeah.
Yeah. Has been an experience.
Very true.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it has been. Well, welcome to All About Wine. We have been gone for a couple, I think 2 weeks ago we had a guest. 3 weeks ago we weren't on the show. Last week we were in the middle of a hurricane, and almost literally in the middle of a hurricane. It went through on Wednesday evening and Thursday morning early, and by Thursday.
It passed to the north, or passed to the south of you. It passed overhead on us. We're in Polk County, and we got the
Was it
first,
at that angle?
We got the first eye wall, and then it was clear, and we're like, oh man, that was terrible. That was insane. And kept hearing on the radio, because we didn't have TV, and they said, oh, if you're in this part of Polk County, the second part is coming your way, and it's worse than the first part. It's like, wait a minute, what? It was.
Oh my gosh!
That's when it really was, because the wind was coming from the opposite direction, so it hit the house on one side. The first the eye wall hit the house on one side, and then the back end hit the back of the house, and it was like, oh my gosh, and it was bad. That was the worst.
Oh yeah.
That lasted for a bit, but just terrible. But you didn't get a
even.
But you
we were getting.
You got the heavy stuff.
We got gusts up to 90 miles an hour here.
Yeah.
That went through.
Yeah, it was bad.
And the trees that were knocked over. Some big oaks, especially on the golf course. I was amazed. There was like 12, 15 big oak trees that were knocked over. Just fell right over, right off the ground. It was something.
Yeah.
So, but we are back, and we have a guest, and she's been patiently waiting.
Yes, we've been.
In the green room. We don't Yeah, I mean, she's probably eating all of our food and drinking all the good wine and everything in the green room. So
Sure.
we don't have to worry about it too much. But we'll get her out here and pull her away. So, Leslie, swallow your food, and we're getting you ready. And welcome to All About Wine, Leslie.
Thank you so much. And I have to say, it's the poshest green room I've ever been in.
Oh, wow.
Thank you very much. That is the first compliment we got on our green room. That is great. Yeah.
That is the first, yeah.
Well, people wait in there, and they just don't comment on it. But thank you. We put some money into that green room, and I'm glad that you enjoyed it. Thank you. That's a good compliment. So we can talk to you about anything but the hurricane, because you're on what, the West Coast?
I'm on the East Coast. So
East Coast.
Yes, I am in Washington, D.C.
Oh,
and,
okay.
It has a storm every day in Washington, D.C. So,
no, that's politics. There's a difference. Okay. So you're in Washington D.C. So, the company's not in Washington D.C. It's in California, isn't it?
No, we're in D.C.
Oh, are they? Oh, wow. I was thinking they were in California for some reason. Jeez. Well, Mike and I both are getting mixed up on this. Good. So tell us about. Well, first, tell us about you. How did you come to be where you are now? What's your story leading up to? I take it you're a sommelier, right?
I am not a somm, but I do have a certification in wine and spirits.
Okay. So, okay. So tell us how you got here, how you got started in wine. Why you got started in wine, and the whole story about how you got to the point where you are.
Oh, sure. Thanks for asking. So I always joke that it was my early midlife crisis, and being living outside of the D.C. area, you either work for the government or you work for an organization that supports the government in some manner. And so for a long time, I worked for an organization that supported the government and had a very involved career in public policy. And I got burnt out, and when you get burned out, you think it's the job, not the career. So I started looking for another job. And I realized a year later, my half-hearted looking, maybe I wasn't interested in that anymore. So I was fortuitously drinking a glass of wine at a wine festival and said, I think I might like this. So really very casual wine drinker. I went home that weekend, researched it, realized that I really couldn't afford to do a career change because being an adult, I had adult bills. So I said, well, I'll go into, you know what I mean? And so I said, well, maybe I'll go into distribution. And I said to myself, well, let me see if I like it. So after my day job, I would intern at local wine shops, doing inventory. And one wine shop was, I don't know if we can still say this term, it was an old world wine shop.
Oh, yeah.
And so I would study the regions that way by doing inventory.
Oh, very good.
And then I said, oh, well, let me do another internship because, you're never convinced the first time. And so I had met with someone, and I was going to do like another internship, and he had proposed a business opportunity. And I was like, are you sure you're meeting with the right person? Because I'm here for the internship, not a business opportunity.
And I'm a novice.
Right, exactly. And so essentially what he was proposing, because at the time I was meeting with the executive director of the Maryland State Wine Association, and yes, there's wine in Maryland. And he was saying in many areas across the United States, there's the 3-tier system.
Yes.
But in some states, for vineyards have a waiver and they can sell directly to restaurants and to stores.
Oh, yeah.
They don't have to go through distributors because they produce such a small quantity that it would impact their bottom line. He said, but what happens is the retail stores and restaurants don't want 100 different vineyards approaching them. They don't have time for that. They would prefer to work through a distributor. And so what he was suggesting is creating a business that would be a middleman between them and acting as a broker, not necessarily as a distributor.
There you go.
So I said to myself, well, I really don't know anybody. So I started a wine tours business. And so during the week, I would work my job. And on the weekends, I would take people to the vineyards in Maryland.
Oh.
And that way I could develop a relationship with them and then potentially open this business. Well, I did for a number of years, and it never went beyond that because it became so popular. But then you may have heard of this little issue called COVID. And
yeah.
When COVID occurred, my wine tours had come to a halt. Because, you couldn't take people in a vehicle that was, very confined or what have you.
A screeching halt, yeah.
A screeching halt. And so we would host virtual wine tastings. And during that time period, I said, people are going to drink regardless if I teach them about wine or what have you. They don't need me to encourage them to drink. They have enough around them to drink. And so I said, well, you know what? I'm going to start an e-commerce wine store. And I started doing research to open this wine store. And then, unfortunately, George Floyd was killed. And so then I changed my focus of the wine store and started doing more research on women and minority producers. And so I decided that there's less than 1%, maybe 2% now, of these populations of individuals who are trying to produce quality wine, but they don't have an opportunity to be seen on a national stage because they're so small producers and the cost barrier is so high. So I changed the focus of the store and opened the retail commerce store in December 2020. And we've just been operating since then. We're based in D.C., but we ship nationally. And it's really for people who have really eclectic taste in wine. It's not for someone who's, looking to, and no offense to anyone, but who's looking to get like 12 bottles for $39. Like, you're not going to find that on our shop. Because we really focus on those boutique markets, and sometimes they tend to be have a higher price point. But we have domestic as well as international wines on our site, and we have most of the major wine regions on our website. And so that's who we are. That's how the Wine Concierge was created.
You say you're certified. What certifications have you received?
So I have a level 2 with distinction for Wesset.
No, okay.
The Wine
And
and Spirits Trust. Mm-hmm.
You're pursuing it and getting more certifications, or are you just satisfied now?
Well, you know what? That's a really interesting question, because I go back and forth saying, do I want to specialize in a particular region, right? Or do I want to pursue my 3? And quite honestly, it's timing. It's just, it's timing. The one thing I have to say is my on-the-job training, because we try to cover so many wine regions or what have you. The self-study, keeps my knife sharpened. But it's very interesting, and coming across these different producers and how climatic influences has really changed the regions and changed I wouldn't say the quality, but the texture of grapes, and what it's producing now has been an education within itself.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah. And you brought up something there that I thought about. There are regions that are noted for their quality and for their wine, but there's so many regions. And on your website, I noticed, I was looking through the thing earlier today, and there are regions that you are offering wine from that aren't really mainstream, if you will, not really noted. And there's some great wine from them. I'm always touting the quality of United States wines in these odd regions, and I see that you have them on your site, and that's great. I think that's fantastic that you're able to, get fine wines from those regions and all that. But the knowledge behind those is so limited out there that it's almost like an education every time you try to teach someone or try to get someone to buy a certain wine from an area that they're not familiar with.
You're exactly right. I mean, you're 100% right. And I think by nature, people are creatures of habit, right? So,
by all means.
And if I said to you, not you, because, you're sophisticated and smart and wise, but if I said to you, hey, I have this great Gruner Veltliner from Pennsylvania, you might look at me kind of crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is Pennsylvania doing producing wine? And one of the things we have is we have a quarterly wine club, and that really is a great platform for us to reach out to these people who are adventurous drinkers. And many of our club members, we give all of our club members an opportunity to switch their wines around. It's not a club where I say, here are your 3 bottles, have a great day, and we'll see you in 3 months, and we'll give you a different 3 bottles, but you can't choose. Our club members have a set of 24 bottles that they can choose from, and they can choose like all of the same wine or different wines or what have you. But many of them don't switch their default settings because they're like, we are excited about what you picked for us, and we wouldn't normally pick that. And that's why I say our wines are, anybody can drink our wines. Our wines are great. But if you're not an adventurous taster or you don't have a mature palate, you're really not going to appreciate the wines on our site.
Well, the comment there, I think people would. And the reason that I used to teach a class. Let me explain to you. I used to teach a wine class when I had the wine meeting. I teach a wine class once a month, and I would tell people about wines. More expensive wines getting up. Most people default wines are between $7 and $15. That's usually the range that people will walk into the store and grab. And right. I used to I used to tell people, jump up to the $25 range, between, $15 and $25, $30. And the quality will be so much better that you will never go back to the cheaper price range. And and I would get the response from them, well, I don't know the difference, but they do. Their palate is there. If I give you and my example is always, if I give you $1 McDonald's hamburger and I gave you a $5 TGI Friday hamburger, you're going to know the difference. You're going to taste the difference. You're going to taste the quality and stuff like that. And I think that goes with wine also. You might not think you're going to know.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think the barrier that we have is because we're an e-commerce site, so you're buying with your eyes.
Right.
We don't have the opportunity. I mean, what we do, let me take that back. We do offer tastings and we have tasting events. But if you're just, scrolling on a website or what have you, you are buying with the descriptions that we provide there or the story behind it, versus if you were going to your favorite wine store and you have a distributor that's doing tastings, or, the manager is opening up a couple of bottles so people can taste it and, take home. That's the disadvantage that we're working at. But I agree with you. Like, if you just $5 more, you would get a really quality wine.
Yeah. And I think people just they go back to the default wines. That's why your concept here is so good, because it gets them to try new wines, gets them to try something that they normally would not try. And going back to the club too, do you say you have 12 wines that can rotate around or whatever? Does that change? I mean, say I do these 12 wines for a year. Do you have new 12 wines for next year or something?
It changes every quarter. So each quarter is a different theme. So our fall, it's based on seasonality, meaning that's when the selections change. So we're in our autumn-fall quarter now, and the theme is a retrospective of South African and French wines, specifically from the Rhone region. And it's because, many of the varietals in South Africa are grapes that are found in France, and many of those were brought over from there. And so we wanted to show our club members that same varietal, totally different climates, totally, regions or what have you. And so a Syrah that you're going to experience in the Rhone Valley is much different than a Syrah that you're going to experience in Cape Town or the Western Cape.
Yeah.
But neither one are bad or good. It's just different.
Yeah, different. Yeah. Oh, that's very good. Excuse me. I noticed also on the website and different things that I've seen. It says that you try to promote women wineries and women winemakers and all that. Is that just because you're a woman, or is that because you have a passion for promoting them? Or both?
Both. I'm going to say D, all of the above. Yeah, and it's interesting because there are more women winemakers or women producers now than there have been before.
Oh, yeah.
Some just, getting into the field, some that their parents own the vineyard, and now they've inherited that vineyard. You see that a lot in the Bordeaux region, where you're seeing more women. Yeah, you're seeing more women assuming the reins of that family vineyard. But it's still a voice that isn't always heard. And so we wanted to make sure that, they were heard as well.
And it's I don't know. I personally think women have well, not being unpolitically correct, but I think they have a better taste for wine than men do.
I think there's some truth to that. Yeah.
I don't know. That seems odd,
Mm-hmm.
but the women I've been around who have been involved with wine tend to pick up little subtle things about a wine that men tend to miss. It's like a paint palette with 50 shades of red on it. And men will say, "Oh, that's red," and women will say, "No, that's this or this or this." And I think that is also true a little bit on the taste, and that's why women tend to refine the wine to their taste a little bit better. And I don't know, that not meant to be a sexist statement. It just seems to be true that I've noticed over the years that I've been around women in wine.
No, I think that's extremely perceptive, and there's some truth there. And I think that's what makes it so important that, we have all of these different perspectives, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you just have like this one group who's saying, "Oh, this is leathery, da 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 da," and
right.
you have this other group that says, "Well, no, I'm picking up, these subtleties, this mushroom, da 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 da." It engages the conversation. You know what I mean? I think it makes it interesting.
Yeah, some of the women I've been around too, there's the standard list of descriptive words that you use for wines, and some of the women I've been around have used other words that you don't think about, but then you start, looking and tasting the wine, you go, "Well, yeah, I can understand that. That's there. That's, real possibility in that taste coming out." And I think that's what's so great about women, because they bring a different palate. Not really, but a different palate to it.
It's like I'm sorry. A friend of mine, she was studying for her level 3.
Mm-hmm.
And she was, in a group tasting, and they were talking, I forget which wine they were talking about, but they were talking about greens, like fresh cut greens, what have you. And they were using those descriptors, and she said, I didn't grow up with that. I grew up with cooked greens. And they were stewed. And so I don't have that perspective. This is perspective that I have. So I also think, when we're talking about how the wine culture is evolving, is people are bringing in, their muscle memory, their perspective, their cultural perspective, their identity in forming these descriptors in how people relate to wine, which I think is so fascinating.
Yeah, and that's something I used to say in the class. I sit there and tell the students in the class that whenever they hear a descriptive term or word, if they look for it, they can probably find it. But if someone says, "This smells like," I don't know, any number, this smells like burnt leather. Okay, well, if you've never smelt burnt leather, you have no idea what you're looking for, what they're talking about.
Right.
I mean, it's not like it's an everyday something. "Oh, well, there's some more burnt leather." I mean, it doesn't happen on that, So some of these descriptions that they throw out, and in fact, I even wonder if the people who use these descriptions have ever heard or ever smelled some of these things. I mean,
like gooseberries.
Yeah,
I wasn't until a full adult until I had a gooseberry.
Yeah, I mean, it's just some of this, and you start looking at it, and some of the things that they throw out, and some of the description, you go, wait a minute, I have no idea what that smells like. I've never had that, and so I used to tell my students, I said, if you've never had it, then you can't relate to it. But if you find something else, it's just as valid as their description. So, you just reminded me of that. I mean, it's just when you were saying that. So, how do you find wines? What do? You you get on the phone and start calling wineries and say, this is Leslie from the Wine Concierge. I'd like to carry your wine, or how does that work?
Yeah, sometimes I literally do that.
Really?
Yeah, I literally do that. And so in DC has the 3-tier system, but DC also has the first right of refusal. So if a local distributor doesn't carry that wine, then you can go directly to them, or you can, find someone who has that wine that you can get that. And so with the population that I'm sourcing my wine from, many of them don't have distributors. And so I'm doing research, and you would be amazed. People send me, and you've probably experienced this too, like you're at a party or a gathering or something, and someone comes up to you and they're like, oh, I like John Doe's wine. Have you heard of that? As if there's only 50 bottles of wine in the world. So every one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And
I know exactly what you mean. That's funny. Yeah, that's true.
And so I'm like, oh no, I haven't heard of them. And so I keep this library of producers or what have you, and then I research them, and I'll reach out and ask, can you send me a sample, or see, have they, are there any reviews on them or what have you. And then, especially when I started out, we were so small. I mean, we're still small, but we were really, really small. And so I would say to the distributors, hey, I'm looking for this profile in winemakers. And I would have to, keep on saying to them, I'm looking for this profile. And so they would bring me, they would say, hey, we just got this in, or have you considered this, and what have you. So I have a small team, and we're constantly researching. Like we're researching now for our December wine club, who we're going to have in that club.
Mm.
And then we taste through it, and I always joke, I'm a big super tannic red wine drinker. Like, if you handed me a glass of Tanat, I would be like, I love you forever. When can we get married, right? But I like our wine, all the wines we carry cannot be my palate. So one of the challenges in the beginning was to make sure that I was not only selecting wines that I just liked, but that we were considering every style and in variety when we were choosing the wines for our website.
Mm-hmm. Well, is it difficult to find the wines you're looking for? I mean, you say you look for a certain profile. Is it? And even to follow up on that question, once you get a hold of one that you find, how difficult is it to acquire that from the winery?
It is a little easier. It's still challenging because many, just on the domestic side, many of them are still on the West Coast. We're on the East Coast. So then we have to figure out the logistics of shipping those wines to us, and making sure that we're ordering in, quantities that we know that we can sell. So we don't want to over purchase, but we don't want to under purchase, because then we have to worry about that again.
Right.
And then internationally, I have several times gone on their website and just emailed them and said, do you have a U.S. importer? And then sometimes they will respond. And when they do, they'll give me their importer, and then I reach out to the importer, and I'm like, who's your local distributor on the East Coast? And just drilling down in that way until I can make a connection with someone.
Oh. So coming from overseas, that's quite a complicated process. And then a lot of I noticed in the wines that I've gotten from Europe and Africa, everywhere, it's usually Miami or New York.
Yeah. Yep.
Exactly.
You're exactly right. Yeah. Like recently with the South Africa focus, we wanted to carry Seven Sisters, which is fairly popular, but they have very limited distribution in the United States. And so I just wrote to the vineyard and asked them, who's your importer? And then making that connection to the importer. And you're exactly right. They were based out of New York. We had to work with them from New York.
Now, when you have an importer that comes in like that, don't they immediately go to a distributor as an importer? Don't they contact distributors to get them into the stores? Aren't you battling against distributors there?
If the distributor doesn't carry it in D.C., I can work with them. Not many, but several of the importers are importers distributors.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. And so it really depends on the jurisdiction. In the District of Columbia, they're a little more flexible than other states.
That's good.
So they can have an importer distributor's license, and they can serve as both. But there are places where you can only solely have the importer's license, and so then you have to work with a distributor, and that distributor may not be, local or have a license in D.C. and is unable to ship to us.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
That would be tough, finding a winery that's willing to work with you and then finding out you can't get it no matter what. Oh, wow.
Yeah, it is. It's an adventure. You learn a lot.
Yeah, I can imagine. Excuse me. Wineries, when you get, what amounts do you talk to them about when you say, okay, I'd like to carry your wines, and they say, well, how many cases do you need a year or whatever? And once you get them, do you continue to carry them, or is it a one and done thing, or how does that work with you?
It really depends on how popular it is with our customers. There's some that we continue to place orders with them, and we have regular shipments with them. There's some that it's a one and done, and specifically for our wine club, and we have two levels in our wine club and our reserve wine club, which are fewer members, and so those tend to be, our higher end wines, and so those are usually one and done, unless we have someone who's searching the internet and they need to find that 2013 port that's no longer carried anyplace, and they find our site. But yeah, it depends on how well received it was. And that's the other thing, like we were talking about earlier, like we really have to sell it like you really want to try this this Pinot Gris orange wine. You really want to try this. This is we have to sell it to people because often they may not have heard of that particular style of wine, or we have to explain to our customers, like, this is a Pinot Blanc, and these are the characteristics of a Pinot Blanc. We really think you will enjoy that.
How many obscure varietals do you carry, or do you even seek because of that reason? I mean, do you try to stay mainstream, or do you try to find stuff like that?
We try to stay mainstream, but I just think it's so curious, for my own curiosity, that we'll do. Like we did a whole Greek series, which that was interesting, and it's fun. I mean, I've loved Greek wine, but we really had to sell it to our customers. Like, if you like this, it's that old. You're probably too young to remember this, but there used to be those.
Thank you. No, I'm not.
Those Giorgio commercials where they would say, if you like wearing Giorgio, then you'll love Primo. And so we would say, okay, well, if you like a Cab Sauvignon, then I'm thinking of Portugal right now, then you'll love I'm drawing a blank. And so that's how we had to do, we had to do that comparison. And so people were like, oh, okay, well, I'll try that. So I find a lot of my job, which is I really enjoy, is a wine education. And making wine approachable, really approachable to people.
Do you follow? Do you have virtual tastings? Do you follow up with something like that?
We do.
Do you?
We do. We will do a virtual tasting because we have club members across the nation. So we'll do a virtual tasting, and we will invite the winemaker to come on and lead a tasting, right? And then sometimes we'll have a virtual tasting with a winemaker that we don't carry their wines, but I think they're doing interesting stuff, and we just can't carry everybody. A virtual tasting on Facebook Live, and invite whoever is in Facebook land to come in and ask questions and for them to talk about their wine. So not all of our virtual tastings, not all of our virtual tastings are wines that we actually carry, because part of my mission is just to build exposure.
Oh, how does one get on that list to be able to tune in to your virtual tastings and like that on Facebook?
Oh, if you subscribe to our Facebook page, which is the Wine Concierge Club, or you can go on our website, which is thewineconcierge.co, and join our mailing list, and we will send you out our list of events, and our virtual tastings are on there, and our virtual talks with winemakers are on there.
Fantastic. Okay. I will do this. I'm still on your site here. I noticed you just in the very top part of your current list of wines that you're showing here, you quite a variety: Spain, Virginia, South Africa, California, Australia. You try to get everywhere in the world wines, or do you just find a region that, except for your seasonal features, but let's see, where am I going with this question? Do you try to get as diversified as you can on your wines, or do you go back to certain regions often?
We go back to certain regions often, and it's funny you're saying that because I was speaking with my team, and there's certain wines that we had carried previously that we sold out and we never replenished it. Like we used to have a couple of really good Albareños and from Spain, and I just noticed the other day that it just dropped from our website. Like we didn't pick them up, and so now that it's almost 4 years into this, I'm starting to fine tune. Okay, these are the ones that really work for us, and this is what our core needs to be, and then we can move out from that core group of wines that we have. So we still want to have a diverse selection, domestic as well as international, but we want to have a core group in that diverse selection, and then venture here, venture there, feature particular regions at a time.
Oh, okay. I see. So the core group can be it doesn't have to be domestic. It could be just, a bit of wine from anywhere. And if it's popular, you'll stay with it then. I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you mentioned club 3 or 4 or 5 times, 10 times, 20 times. Tell us about the club, how it works, and what's the procedure if someone wanted to get into this club? What does it cost? Do you have different price levels? Do you have different bottles that are sent out? What's the whole thing with the club?
Yeah, so the club is called Shades of Vino, and it's a segment of our wine store. And Shades of Vino is a quarterly wine club, and it's free to join. And you can choose from 3, 6, or 12 bottles. And there, within Shades of Vino, there's the club, which is our everyday wines. And then we have our reserve wines in the club. And when you join the club, you have the default setting for each of those, but then you can go in and we call it drink what you like. You can select, like if you like all white wines, you can just select white wines. You can select across the reserve and the club. And our members receive discounts on their non-club wines. You always get a discount there. If you purchase 6 bottles or more, you get free shipping, which is great. If you live on the West Coast and you're part of the club, we get a lot of West Coast people, interestingly enough, because they have a hard time getting some of the wines that we have, even though they're produced in the West Coast. And then we have exclusive events for our club members. So it really is. It is drink what you like, and then our members have an opportunity, if they want to pause their subscription for a quarter, they can do that without penalty. So we're really flexible, and I started the club with the intention of building a wine community of people who were interested in wine and wanted to explore through their wine glass the world of wine.
It sounds like a very flexible club. I mean, some of them are quite rigid. That sounds like it's very flexible. That's a good thing there. You mentioned something. I'm going to go. You mentioned trips and stuff like that for club members. I noticed on your website you have a South Africa harvest retreat coming up in January of 2025, which is only 3 months away.
Yeah.
Do you do a lot? This looks pretty cool too. 10 nights, 11 days in South Africa and the wine harvest and all that. You have to realize, listeners, that South Africa is in the southern hemisphere, and so they are the opposite of the year as we are. So they're going to be harvesting in that time. But do you do trips like this often, or is this something you're attempting to do now and trying to do, or?
This is our very first one.
Is it?
So
okay.
This is our people have approached us before, and quite honestly, like, I didn't have the energy to add another thing to the plate. You know what I mean? I already had like 10 plates spinning, and when they approached us to do it, it just was so easy to do. Like, they were planning the itinerary and everything. So I said, okay, well, let's try this to see how it works. And it's during harvest time. So, and we'll be spending a lot of time at different vineyards and wine dinners or what have you. So it sounded ideal. So I'll have to check back with you in February, Ron. Like, it was great. Or like, no, I won't ever do that again.
Won't do that again.
Right.
Yeah. Well, you can reach out to all sorts of regions, though, that are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There's a lot of great trips that you can throw in there on that. Hope it works for you. But, you'll have to let Jennifer know so she can pass it on to me, or you can pass it on to me. That's okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's yeah.
No, go on.
Have you organized those? Have you done those trips?
I haven't done trips. No, I have. When I lived in California, I was involved with wine a lot like that, and I went on some trips with them. And but no, not from here. And we closed down the winery back in 2016, which, in hindsight, it was a good time to do it because COVID would have killed us anyway. We would never survive. And so, but no, to answer the question in one word, I have not. Sounds great, though. The South Africa trip sounds great. Something about the South African trip, black winemakers. I noticed you mentioned something that you promote black winemakers. There aren't a lot of black winemakers in this country. I mean, we think women winemakers are a minority. Oh my gosh, the black winemakers are
much smaller. Yeah, much smaller. And there's a but it is growing in numbers, and I have to say the population of black wine consumers are growing. Like how Wine Spectator or Wine Enthusiast or what have you, they'll come out with these annual surveys and they'll show that, the millennial, they're not drinking wine, they're drinking alcohol-free, which I don't understand. You know what I mean? You're like,
I know what you mean.
Why don't you just have a soda?
Yeah, really, alcohol-free. People used to ask me, I'll get a little aside here. People asked me when I had the winery, they said, do you have any alcohol-free wine? And I go, you go down the street to Public Supermarket and buy Welch's grape juice. That's alcohol free. And
I have we have two on our website. We have two but it took a long time for us to find those two because they haven't perfected it. Like alcohol free beer, I think they've perfected it as far as taste is concerned. But alcohol-free wine is still struggling.
And there's new methods of stuff like that they're doing now. I think, Mike, I'm going to ask you to help me recall. Didn't we talk to someone who was doing alcohol-free wine I'm thinking either that or I read something about it, and I'm transposing into the show, but or somebody was talking about alcohol-free wine and the new method that they have now of making it alcohol-free that's not really taking out any of the flavors or taste or aroma. It's just
we had Bodvar Hafstrom from Bodvar Rosé. Let's see, the guy from the south of France. He had Bodvar Zero, which was an alcohol-free wine, and I'm going strictly by memory. The wine is actually 0% alcohol, and they make the rosé, then vacuum out the alcohol. That's the
that's the method. And he was saying that you really can't tell the difference now with that method. They say it tastes just like wine. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I
don't know. I have a friend who lives in Paris, and she often does wine tours to like Champagne and the different regions. And she said in some of the vineyards, they're actually pouring alcohol-free wines in the vineyards. But it's still an evolving process, that whole distillation method of removing it. You do still remove some of the flavor
and the aromas. I'm sure,
Mm-hmm.
I can't see a wine smelling the same when you take out the alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. It's just me. I guess I'm just old school on that. But alcohol-free wine. I mean, Welch's grape juice. There's your alcohol-free wine.
And the thing about it is, okay, so now you did it right. It costs just as much as if you had left the alcohol in there. That's what the thing that I know of someone who shall remain nameless, and her alcohol-free wine is pretty good. She used to be like a regular winemaker, and then she moved to this, what have you. But she's selling hers at $35 a bottle. I'm sorry. Give me the alcohol. I am not paying $35 a bottle for alcohol-free.
I know. When you say wine, you think of that alcohol in it anyway. I mean, what? I don't know. I'm shaking my head now. You can't see it, but I'm shaking my head on this alcohol-free for wines. And like you say, beer. Yeah. They got beer to the point where it tastes like beer. But alcohol-free wine. But we got on this tangent here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You were telling me about black wine.
Yeah. So there are very few of them. One, because, the cost to get into winemaking is so high, that hurdle, right?
It's ridiculous, yeah.
And so they're undercapitalized. And then there are very few of them who actually have the vineyard, and they're growing the grapes. Many of them use custom crush or their private label.
Wow.
But there's an association of the African American Vintners Association.
Oh, really?
And they're based out of California, and but they have membership all over the country, and even probably some international members, and their membership has grown tremendously from 2020 to 2024. But there's still very few. There aren't hundreds, and sustaining, I think, is the next issue, and the next hurdle is really getting into ownership.
Yeah.
Owning the vineyard or what have you, because when you're sourcing your grapes from someone else, you're using somebody else's equipment. Your bottle is not competitive on the market.
No. Because you get too much cost in it.
Yeah. Exactly. And so keeping them sustainable is very difficult.
Yeah, that's a good point. And yeah, we talk about the glass ceiling for women. I mean, it really is a good old boy network when it comes to winemakers and all that, especially in California. I mean, for blacks to break into that is even harder than women, I would believe.
It is challenging. It is definitely challenging, but this is like the next generation of winemakers. What's his name? Oh, I can see his bottle now. This one particular winemaker that we work with, he's great. His name is Raymond Smith. He started in the wine industry. He had a bottling truck.
Oh, very good.
And so he would go around, every harvest and do vineyard to vineyard in Central California and bottle wine. And so he did. I think he did it for like almost 20 years or what have you. And so really developed a relationship with the farmers, the vineyard managers, or what have you, and started buying fruit from them and producing his own wine. And we still carry some of his wine. And this spring, Wine Enthusiast had two of his wines, his rosé, and he primarily just uses Pinot Noir grapes. 94 plus points in Wine Enthusiast. But, getting that recognition, too, is very helpful in spreading the word. Yeah. And one of the things when we talk to new winemakers or what have you, it's funny. They're like, yeah, making the wine was a challenge. Selling the wine is even harder.
And that's understandable, yeah. Excuse me. Getting out there and getting people to buy it is what we were talking about here. We've made full circle on the show.
Right.
Just like you were saying in the beginning. I mean, you have this product, but it's trying to give it to people who aren't familiar with it and aren't used to it, and they just don't want to switch. And I can see his challenge on that. I can see challenge for any winemaker.
Yeah. But then there's the good thing is that there are nonprofit organizations like the Roots Fund, the Eurasian Project, and one of the things that we do is we donate $1 from every wine sold to the Black Winemakers Scholarship Fund.
Oh, yeah. Oh, very good.
Yeah. And so there's organizations like that really work with these producers to help them sustain and provide like internships and opportunities to flourish in the community. So then you have a foothold in there.
Yeah. And once you get the name noted and out there, then it makes it so much easier. It's getting that first initial shove so that you're on an equal base with a lot of these others. And once you get past that, then it makes it so much easier.
Right. But it takes time. I mean, for a new wine producer, who has the resources, it still takes time. So just imagine someone who doesn't have the resources, that uphill battle. But if you are in there for the marathon and not the sprint, you will do well.
And there's so many wineries out there. It's overwhelming. It really is overwhelming when somebody starts to explore a little bit more. They don't know where to go, what to pick up, what's good, what's bad. And that's why something like the Wine Concierge is so useful, because you guys can let them try different ones without going into a lot of expense. And I say that simply because your website the wines are reasonably priced. I was really impressed as I was looking through the prices on those. The prices that you're offering on the wines are really reasonable.
Thank you.
It's I mean, it's not like $40, $50, $60 for every bottle of wine that you're trying to sell there. It's a reasonable price on all of these things, which makes a difference when people are trying to try a new wine.
Right.
They don't want to go out and spend an outrageous amount of money and then find out they don't like it. You know?
Exactly. Or, worse, where they spend all this money and they have to pay for shipping.
Yeah.
So
another good point.
We try to make that competitive. Yes. Yeah. How long did you have your winery? How long did you have your vineyard?
It was here in Florida, and we opened in 2009, just right before 9/11, which really surprisingly didn't hurt us as much as we thought it would. We had 10 acres of Florida grapes, and I also sourced some grapes from California. And so 2009, and I closed it down in 2016. So
really?
Yeah. And the reason I closed it, and I mentioned this to on the show before, I have diabetes from Agent Orange in Vietnam, and my VA doctor, told me, she's examining. She said your sugar levels are high and they're not coming down, and she says I think it's because of the stress from the winery. And I said, the winery's not giving me any stress. And she goes, it is. She said, just in the nature of working and stuff, she said, it is giving you stress. She said, it's going to start really affecting your health. I suggest you close the winery. I didn't want to. I was looking at the day that I just fall over dead at the tasting bar, but that wasn't meant to be. And my wife and I discussed it, and we decided that we can afford my retirement, and so I did. So we closed the winery down in 2016, which, like I said earlier, it was a good move considering that COVID hit. We would have crashed and burned then anyway, because so. But it was. We had it for. Let's see. Well, not about 8 years. 8 years.
That's a really good run. That's a really good run.
And I would have had it longer, except for the fact that it was health reasons. And the short answer, health reasons. But it was fun. It was fun. It was educational. And
I was going to ask you, what was the most rewarding thing about having it?
Knowledge. The people I met, and knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
I've been involved with wine since I was 25 years old, and had never gotten any certifications or anything. It was just something that I was always involved with, and I just continued learning stuff over the years and more. But I think the years that the winery opened, my knowledge of the inner workings and a lot of the stuff was expanded, tenfold, 20-fold. I learned so much. And then the people. It was, any winery and anybody who has a winery would agree, I think, that you have your regular customers that come in and you get to know them, and they tend to become not just customers, but they become friends, and they become like an intimate circle of that you create in the winery. So those are things I miss too. Most rewarding, but the things I miss. And we used to put on events and all that all the time, and that was really a lot of fun. We used to enjoy that. And, I had continuous big events every year that we would put on. And being a veteran, I tried to promote veteran groups, and we're big in helping SPCA and local animal shelters and stuff. So we used to put on events for them, and and stuff like that. And every once a month we would have a festival where we'd have a bunch of vendors out and back and do wine tastings and stuff, which was always fun too. We'd bring in crowds. So it was enjoyable. It was fun. It was stressful, and I didn't realize how stressful it was until after I closed it down, and I noticed I took this enormous sigh of relief in the fact that I didn't have that stress anymore. And so,
that's understandable.
I'm glad I did it, and glad it was done. And now I'm enjoying my retirement and talking to people like you.
Good for you.
Yeah, well, thank you. Mike, do you have any questions or anything for Leslie here before we?
No, just enjoying it and enjoying all the information and everything. And it's been a pleasure to hear about you and your history and what you're doing, and just wishing you much continued success in the years to come. And thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys having us.
Before you disappear, give us contact information and all Facebook and websites and X and all this other stuff. So if anybody wants to get a hold or become a member, they have a way to do it.
Thank you for that opportunity, and thank you. This has been very enjoyable.
It's been fun.
I've been on the other end of a podcast, and there's sometimes with some guests you're like, okay, we're just gonna get through this, but you made this very enjoyable.
I know,
and I appreciate it. I appreciate
I know
it.
exactly what you mean. Yeah. Oh, you're welcome.
So our website is thewineconcierge.co. And for Instagram and Facebook, we have the same handle, which is at the Wine Concierge Club. And you can email us at hello@thewineconcierge.co. And if anyone is interested in joining Shades of Vino, your first club package, you get 15% off and a bonus bottle of wine. So,
oh wow!
If you join your first quarter, you get that little Benny.
All right. So there you go. And if I may throw in a couple of things for all of you listeners out there, the holidays are coming up. What a better gift for the holidays than wines? And this is a good way to pick up some wines a good variety of them and get a little discount while you're at it, and free shipping and everything. So keep that in mind. And one other thing too, just Concierge. It's CONCIERGE. So it's that fancy French where they don't pronounce some of the letters. So be sure you type it in right.
Thank you for that. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's easy to misspell it, and it says no such site, or they'll take you to some porn site or something. You don't want that. So
no, you don't want that.
Be sure you spell it right, and you can get a hold of it. And thank you, Leslie, for taking time out this afternoon, this evening, actually, since you're on the East Coast with us, taking the time out and talking to us about it. And it sounds like a great concept. It sounds like a great thing that's going to work for you very well. And I will look forward to finding out how this trip to Africa went.
Yes, I will report back, or have Jennifer report back and let you know.
I will look forward to that. Thank you very much for taking the time out this evening. It was very enjoyable, and best of luck to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm glad to hear you survived the storm, and we'll keep our fingers crossed. So take care.
Yeah. Okay, you too now. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye now. Oh, good guest.
Yeah, very good. Very informative. Lots of
good. Lots of information there. Yeah, it was fun talking with her. Mm-hmm. And like she said, some guests you just can't wait to get off. Others it's fun to talk with, and she was fun, interesting, and interesting guest. So, all right, a couple of announcements. Number one, oh wow, it's 8:15. Number one, 2 weeks from today is Halloween. So we will not be doing a show on Halloween. A couple of reasons. Mike is going to be going on a highly deserved vacation because he works so hard. And so he needs it. Are you going to be doing...
What?
Well, yeah. Now, see, I had people feeling sorry for you, and then you laughed. And
I'm going to have to go. Well, I'm going to play that for everybody at work just so they hear that. They'll get a good chuckle out of it. He does.
They will too. Huh? What? We're so hard. Yeah. So we got Halloween coming up in 2 weeks, and so like I say, Mike's going to be will be on vacation, and every Halloween we've been doing this for 22 years now. Every Halloween, my wife makes a great big pot of chili, and all the family and everybody comes over here, and the kids go trick-or-treating around the neighborhood here because we have closer houses and they give decent candy. And then everybody comes back here and we have chili and, sort through the candies and all that. And they always let me pick out a few of my favorites. And we do that on Halloween. But because the show is at a time when it starts
prime time,
dawn, when prime time for trick or treating, then I'm not going to be available. So 2 weeks from tonight, no show. But next week we do have a guest, and in fact, I should have pulled this out earlier so I could tell you exactly who the guest was. But while I'm doing this, let me remind everyone of Mike's radio show. We haven't talked about that in a while.
No. Wow. It's on Flatline Radio. Yeah. Natalie McLean next week.
There you go. Okay, thank you. Natalie McLean. Natalie was on once before. She is she's written books. She's been on TV. She's it's really quite knowledgeable in wine and quite prolific in all other stuff that she does. But she wrote a book, and she contacted me, and she says, Ron, she says, my book's done. Would you like, me to be on the show and we talk about it? So I said, sure. So she will be on next week. So, and I'm just looking at my calendar. I'm not looking at what the name of the book is, but it's good. She was a good guest, and the book should be very good. So that's coming up next week. So tune in next week. But Flightline Radio, Mike's show every day. It's on all day, 24/7. Great music. You can just stream the thing in the background while you're listening to stuff, or while you're surfing the web and getting lost in all sorts of stuff. You can still just listen to his music in the background. But then he comes on live every Saturday morning, except he might not on his vacation. We don't know yet.
I don't think so.
He comes on live. Oh, there you go. So
I worked so hard. I'm going to have to take that 2 hours off. Just
going to have to relax on that, too.
Yeah.
Every Saturday morning from 10 to noon. And then at noon, there's a replay of this show.
Yeah.
And then right after that, yes, I think. Then after that is episode of 1st and 15th, which is a couple of guys sitting around talking about nothing important and nothing, but it's really hilarious, and they go off onto tangents and useless tangents, but it's well worth sitting down and listening to it for the hour. And a little extra note here, coming up this Thursday, we're going to be recording a 1st and 15th episode with the 4 of us, or the 5 of us cigar guys, are all going to be on talking with each other. So that should be an interesting episode. But they're only going to do 100 episodes, and after 100, they said they're going to stop, and they're getting closer and closer. So, which is a shame, because it's really, really funny. So, but excuse me, FlightlineRadio.com.
Thank you.
Tune it in, listen to it. There's all sorts of, and when Mike's on the show, you can get on there and ask for some obscure song you haven't heard in a while, and he can usually find just about all those. So,
we'll try to
do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're pretty good about it. It's always surprised me.
Surprises me too.
So there we go.
Thank you. All right. Thank you for that. We will close the show for this evening at 8:21, 8:22 probably.
Wow.
Thank you all for tuning in, and thank you to our special guest tonight, which was Leslie from the Wine Concierge. Yes, and I do appreciate that. Very good guest. Y'all have a great weekend ahead, and be safe. And for those of us down in Florida enjoying the winter, we got a few more days of it, and we'll be back. Be back in the 80s and 90s again soon. So,
yes, we only hope and pray.
Yes, that's right. This is it. Yep. The weather tries to kill us one week, and like you said, and then the next week.
It tries to kill us 1 week, and the next week it gets warm and nice, then it gets so cold it tries to freeze us to death. It's gone. Right. I say so cold. The mid-lower 50s. I mean,
yes. Brr. Winter is upon us.
Brr.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Have a good one. Be safe, and we'll talk to y'all next Thursday with our guest Natalie McLean on October 24th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Have a good one. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Be safe.
This concludes tonight's broadcast of All About Wine with your host, Ron. For show information, links to All About Wine on Twitter and Facebook, or to be a guest on this show, visit the show website at www.allaboutwinebtr.com. Archived shows are available for download on iTunes or on our show page at blogtalkradio.com.